Hey friends, it's me, Shay, and welcome back to Just Shay and Friends. And today I'm back because I have nerded out with research to the 1000th degree. I've nerded out to the 1000th degree and took it to a whole nother level. Okay, something was itching my brain so hard that I had to keep looking it up and keep looking it up for months. And then I set something up to talk to a professional and I did that. Okay, so what did I do? If you follow me on TikTok, you saw that my story said that Stacy and I were going to meet the our local police officers and just go there for a meet and greet. Nothing's wrong. We're not in trouble. Nothing to that degree. But I set it up to go there because I was doing some research for another podcast episode about the young man that had some issues at school. He ended up having to deal with police. It didn't go well. So that podcast episode made me itch my brain. And it made me think, what if anything happened with us or Stacy? And I was not around, or Heaven was not around to speak for him. And he had to interact with our local police. What would happen? So I thought and thought and thought about it. And I thought, what would happen in this current state, the way Stacy is right now, because he's still learning. We try and teach him, the interaction would not be good in my eyes because he's nonverbal. We know this. He has a means to communicate besides verbal. He has his tablet. He has some sign language that he knows. But the issue is, will he use it? And that is sometimes a no, depending on who the person is. So me, I prompt him a lot. I can't think of the word right now, but I'm super consistent and I don't ever leave him alone about it. Okay? Everybody's not going to be like that. But he knows that not to play with me, like communicate with me with this tablet. He knows that. But I wanted to see what he would do with somebody else. And I wanted to see what he would do with a police officer. But without having to have a situation to call them. You know what I mean? Like test it out. Test it out. Another thing that I wanted to know is who would I be dealing with? Who would we be dealing with if for whatever reason there was a crisis or something, very much something, and the police had to interact with us because of that? Who would I be dealing with? I wanted to know that. So I started my research with a simple Google search and I just typed in who responds to, I don't know, mental health crisis. I didn't get what I wanted out of that Google search. I didn't find it. So I don't have no article to give y'all for that. But what I did find is just they put the number for the precinct in there. So they were pretty much like, I guess Google was like, I don't know, but call the police station. So that's what I did. I called them and then I asked them. And the first person I talked to was the receptionist. And she said that them, if you tell them this what's going on in the situation, like for example, so let's say hypothetically, my son was having a meltdown that turned into a crisis, and he started to put the pause on me, and for whatever reason, I was not able to calm him down to a degree where I thought that I needed help. Okay, I can call 911 and say, hello, my son is having a mental health crisis. He's autistic, he's nonverbal, and he is doing this, and I feel unsafe. If that happened, you can call them and tell them that. Give them that information. Give them all the diagnoses that you think are important, and they will, uh, I think they're called dispatch. Dispatch will get you to the correct person. They're not just going to send you the beat cop. They're not just going to send you whoever is available. They're going to try to get the professional person. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because I do have notes. But those people are called crisis management personnel, something like that. Anyways, so that answers that question. So I called him and she told me about that. And so I went a little bit further with my research and I was like, let's dive in, shall we? I asked her, I said, can I talk to somebody face to face? Better yet, can I bring my son and can he interact with somebody? Just, might as well, since we're talking about it. And the best practice is just to do something. And she was like, sure. So she set it up for me and then we went this morning. So that's the why I went to the police precinct. All right, now let's get into how did it go. So first, we got there, and before we even got out the car, of course, I have to explain to my son what's going on. Now, I was going to beat myself up a little bit about this, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to mention it. I'm not going to beat myself up because shoulda, coulda, woulda, Shay. Okay, you don't have a time machine. All right. I should have, this is just lessons learned. I should have talked to him before it happened, days before it happened. But in my defense, I forgot it was about to happen until yesterday when I got an alert on my phone. So by that time, he was already in his room. He doesn't like to be bothered in his room, so I didn't bother him. But anyways, I should have. Next time, I'm going to put a notification to alert me before the notification, days before, so that I could talk to him. So that's lessons learned. But I didn't do that. What I did do was before we went in there, I talked to him. First, I just told him this is a police precinct and the police work here. We're going to just go in here and meet and we're going to talk to them. And if you don't like nothing, if you don't like anything that's going on, you can tell me and you can tell them. If they do anything or if anything happens that you're uncomfortable, you can say stop on your tablet. And I showed him, stop on his tablet, etc. At first, he looked like he was confused. He didn't say anything, so I just kind of have to gauge off of his body language, and his body language was telling me what's going on, even after I explained. So what I did was I grabbed my phone and I just typed in police into Google and went to images, and they showed me images of police officers in their uniform, and I showed him that, and then he was like, "Oh, okay." And then he was mad. And I was like, what's wrong, son? But he didn't tell me what was wrong. He was just mad. I think he just didn't want to be there, honestly, to be completely honest with you. I sprung it upon him, and that's my fault. But lessons learned, next time it's going to be better. But after I talked to him, I asked him, was he ready to go inside? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, how about a 5-minute timer? And he was like, I was like, a 2-minute timer? I was like, okay. So I set a 2-minute timer and then we went inside. No big deal, right? We went in and he was fine. He was kind of social, but kind of withdrawn. And when we came in, the captain, I believe it was, he was the one that walked us around and he took us into an office first and just like talked to us. And then that's when I took my opportunity to tell him more about Stacy and some things I was concerned with. He said something to Stacy about hands, because I was telling Stacy nice hands, because Stacy he was doing what he do, okay? He was asking for something to eat. He was asking for the Wi-Fi password. He was not focused on the meet and greet at all. So I started focusing in on the meet and greet, and then he got mad, like, why you not paying attention to me? So he kept trying to get my attention, etc. So I said, I need you to show me nice hands while I'm talking to our friend here, the captain. And so he did his nice hands. And then the captain was like, Captain did nice hands too. And Captain was like, yeah, we really like nice hands here too. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, I bet y'all do. I bet y'all do like nice hands. Who doesn't? Okay, who doesn't like nice hands? So they bonded over nice hands. And then that brought up a question in my head. I was like, so if you do run into Stacy or any other autistic adult or anybody, kid, they carry around things sometimes. I know majority that I know. carry around like sensory objects. For Stacy, it's straws, things that they could stim with. And sometimes it's not just good enough to put it in a bag. You have to hold it in your hand. And I understand this now. I'm always telling Stacy, put it in the bag. Okay? You ain't got enough hands. What if you need to use your hands? He'll never listen. He like to hold it in his hands. Sometimes it's not, the bag is not enough. Sometimes it's not. So I told him that. And I was like, would it be an issue if he had his things in his hand? And he looked at the container. It was like a clear container, and it was just full of straws. And he was like, what are they? And I was like, they're straws. And he was like, oh, just like plastic straws? And he said, well, to me, and not my opinion, that don't look like nothing that's dangerous, especially because I could see it. You know, it's in the clear container. And I said, now what if they were in his hand, but you wanted him to, show his hands? And he said, I don't see nothing with him wrong with what he has right there. So that's what he told me. He said pretty much the officer has to be smart enough to know what's a weapon and what's not a weapon. Obviously, if my son is holding his straws, you can still see his hands. So that's something that is gauged person by person, in my opinion. Now, I didn't further process that because I kind of still have an issue with it, but it's because I'm what ifing, overthinking. Okay, and we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. So let's move right on along. So next, what happened? Oh, next he showed us some cool stuff. He showed us where they get dressed and stuff, and then he showed us where they used to keep like prisoners and stuff. Because I guess it used to be a little jail back in the day. The office and the jail was the same place back in the day, but it's not like that anymore. And they had like office supplies in there, like paper and stuff, copier paper, chairs, etc. And he was like, "Yep, this is it." And I was like, "Is this a standard sale?" And he was like, "Yeah, standard today." I was like, "Oh my gosh, it was so small. I could never. I could never." Stacy looked in there and he was like, I was like, "Yeah, ugh." And he was like, "Yeah, you see that little wall right there?" And it was like a little wall. Probably if you're sitting down, the wall would probably be like right here if you're sitting down. He said, "You see that little wall right there?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "The toilet's back there." I was like, "What?" The space for the toilet was so. You can't have thick thighs that save lives in jail, okay? You can't. How you gonna take a good poopy and you can't even? I can't do it. Okay, Stacy was unimpressed as well. We were both unimpressed. We hated it. Okay, so I told Stacy we need to behave because we wouldn't make it, and he was like, "Agreed." Shook on it. Autistic shake. And then he showed us the car, and he got Stacy to sit in the front seat, and they were besties. I was like, "What?" I didn't even get in because I wanted it to be about Stacy. I wanted him to know, like, look, I'm here, but I'm not. You know what I'm saying? This is your thing. I'm not in charge. Okay. I wanted him to know that he in charge of what happens, what's going on. So every time the captain asked Stacy, "Do you want to go and do this now?" Stacy would look at me and I would give him nothing. I would neither say yes nor no. And I would try not to smile or nothing like that. I was just there. Like, I'm here for support, son. It's up to you. Do you want to? So eventually he started answering the captain. And I'm happy about that. It means that he started to trust him enough to communicate with him. And so that went well. Also, I told the captain another issue that I thought, another thing that I thought might be an issue is the fact that they need to sometimes see identification. And I don't know about anybody else's kid that has an identification, but my son does not allow anybody to touch his identification. It's almost like I mean, I know it's his, but he's like anything that's his. When it gets out of his possession, all of a sudden it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, and now that makes me anxious. So if I were to say, "Let me see your ID," and I would hold it in my hand, that would make him anxious. And then he would either keep asking for it back or he would try to grab it from me, etc. So I said that could be an issue. So I don't even know how this captain worked this in. I happened to be talking to him about something. I was actually talking to him about the ID thing. And while he was asking me where's his ID, he casually pulled his ID out his wallet. He pulled out his wallet and he was like, "Look, I got an ID too, Stacy. I got a wallet too, Stacy. Look." And then he opened it up and he pulled out his ID and he was like, "Look what I got. See my ID?" And Stacy actually was like looking at the man's ID. He was actually looking at it, paying attention, etc. So I just stayed quiet. And then after he noticed that Stacy was looking at his ID, he said, "You have one of these?" And Stacy was like, "Yeah." He was like excited. And then he pointed to his bag because he had his little knapsack, whatever you call those fanny pack things. He had one of those crossed over. So he pointed to his bag and he was like, "Yeah, I got one. Like right here." And then the captain was like, "Can I see it?" And Stacy pulled out his wallet like this. But he pulled it out and he didn't open it. So neither I nor the captain could see Stacy's ID. So the captain took it upon himself to kind of reach for Stacy's ID, but he was like face to face, and they were, talking to each other, and it was casual. Stacy was showing no signs of distress, so I approve. I approve, and I'm sure if I would have been like, "No, don't do that," he would have stopped. But he casually reached over to Stacy's wallet and opened it up while it was still in Stacy's hand. And then he looked at the ID then. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, you do have one of these." He tried to take it out, but the thing was stuck. So, lessons learned number 2, I need to get Stacy a new wallet that his ID can just come out very easily. Lessons learned number 2. But I was pleasantly surprised and proud that Stacy allowed him to do that. Now, the captain eventually did take Stacy's whole wallet because he was having a hard time getting the ID out. So he just took the whole thing and tried to see if he could kind of get it out that way while it was in his hand. But then Stacy snatched the wallet back and was like, "Nah, bro, you tripping, bro." So he took it back, put it back in his bag, and was like, "That's enough." And then the captain was like, "Okay," and then he sat down. Now I know in a real scenario it probably wouldn't go down like that, but that's why we doing this. That's why we practicing. Okay, I said maybe next time he'll let you hold it a little bit longer. And also now I know he need a different wallet. Now I know this, and I can fix that easily. Easily. Amazon queen, you already know me. Okay, so that's how that went. It's a good report. Okay, I think both Stacy and the captain did well, even though they didn't know each other. Stacy was nervous. He told me that straight up. He was completely honest. He was like, "I'm nervous." When I asked him, I was like, "Are you nervous?" And he said, "Yes." And then that's when I tried to calm him down. I gave him his little 2-minute timer and we went on in. Okay, we're acknowledging that we have these feelings. We are nervous, but we're still going to do it. We're still going to do it because this is important. And I don't know if the captain was nervous, but he did seem like he wasn't all that knowledgeable. But that's because Stacy is an individual, and I'm sure he has seen other autistic people before, probably more kids, but he's never seen a Stacy. So in that way, it did seem like he was kind of just more there to learn just as much as me. He asked me a lot of questions too, and then um actually, I'm getting ahead of myself again. That's why I have notes. Okay, so that's how it went. My report is good. It went well. We're actually going to do it again in a couple of more months. And we're just going to keep doing it again because I think it's important for Stacy to get that practice in, for them to get to know each other. And then he said next time we can meet more cops. Like we met the captain and another officer there today. Um, but he said maybe next time we'll meet more, do more stuff. Lastly, what did we learn? What did I learn from this experience? So I already told y'all about, when I called the police precinct, the receptionist told me about the crisis people, that if you tell them that well, in my case, I have an autistic son with ID and whatever else they have. Tell them the diagnosis straight up. He's nonverbal. This is the case. And I'm having these issues. If you tell the dispatcher that, they will get you. They will get the right people sent to you. They won't just send you the regular schmegular cops. And also, I'm sure I didn't ask him this, but I'm sure the cops will come too. In addition to that professional, I'm sure the cops will come too. So be prepared for that. But at least they're not just cops that don't have experience. At least they're not that. At least they're also sending a professional. So there's that. Second thing I learned is what the captain told me. That was the first thing he told me actually. He said every police officer in our area anyways, in Virginia, and I'm sure it's like that in other places too. He said every police officer gets training on autism in basic training. And their basic training is like the equivalent to the military basic training. Like you have to do that before you're a police officer. If you don't pass basic training, then you don't qualify. So he said that happens in basic, and I was pleasantly surprised. I did not know that. And I asked him a little bit more about the autism training, and he said, well, it's not extensive, but they do get trained by a professional, actually an assistant principal at the local school. The assistant principal does the training on autism. Pretty much tells them what it is. It's like a beginner course on autism, basically. And this is what a person with autism might look like. This is what some of their behaviors might look like, etc. This is what autism is, etc. So they get that training in basic. And I was surprised with that. So that means that every police officer should know, at least have this much awareness. Because if you know the basics, you at least have the minimum required of awareness to be dealing with somebody with autism. The minimum, I guess. But I am happy with that. That's a positive in my eyes. Now, is the minimum required enough? Not all the time. Not all the time, especially when you have a special case like somebody that their traits really are different than any other autistic person you've ever met. And that's going to happen because every autistic person is different. Now, there are some traits that are similar in autistic people, but sometimes it ain't. Sometimes it isn't, and sometimes it looks different. But regardless, I still think that's a good thing. That's something I didn't know, and now that I know it, I feel better. I feel a little better. Another thing, the local police can put some kind of flag or alert on your address, which means this is kind of like a nice, cool tool that I asked them to do for me, actually. When anything happens that 911 is called and you say it's at my address, at your address, after you get this flag on your address, then they will only send the right people. Because when they see, that it's from my address, they go to the little computer and they're like, okay, it has a flag. They're going to go to the computer and be like, what is the flag? And then the flag is going to say the notes. Stacy lives here. He is autistic, etc., etc., so forth and so forth. And then they're going to proceed with the caution. And they're going to act accordingly. They're not just going to go up in there with no information. Now they're going in there with information, and they're going in there knowing the situation. And this will help them keep everybody safe. All right. And that is pretty much all I have on that. I will tell you guys that I'm glad I did this. I was definitely hesitant at first. Not that I don't have any issues with the police or anything like that. Actually, he was showing us the wall with all the pictures of the police officers on there. And I was like, I haven't seen any of y'all. None of these people look familiar. And you know what? I shouldn't be surprised because I don't even go into the out that much. Why would I ever? When would I ever run into a police officer? So I hope you don't have to deal with police ever, but you never know. You never know. Like, he's gonna be on his own eventually. And I know it. The way things are going with him, he's gonna be on his own. I don't know when, but I just know it's gonna happen. So it's the possibility of him having to interact with police, law enforcement goes up after that. Especially when he's without me. Maybe not especially when he's without me. I'm just saying. The chances of him having to interact does go up without me, because if I were there, I would interact. So you right, Shay. Don't second guess yourself. You said it right the first time, okay? Thank you, Shay. Anyways, my point is, my son about to be out here in these streets without his mama. Okay? And I need to stop being in denial. I need to stop being in the denial. Okay? He's showing signs that he's ready to. He got his wings are fully grown, pretty much. Okay? He's just still learning how to fly straight and stuff, you know? But in reality, even if he is ready to leave the nest, I don't think he's gonna fly out the nest, just because the nest is so comfortable, you know? And his 90-inch TV is here in the nest, so. And his lazy boy and his everything, you know? Everything he needs is here, so he might not leave. But if he does, he gonna be prepared, okay? He gonna be prepared, because I'm telling you, we doing it again. We're going again, and we're gonna go periodically, and I highly suggest that y'all do it as well. I know I just went on a tangent, and I'm not sure if I made my point there at the end, but if you're still watching at this point, then you must really like watching, and I appreciate you. So in conclusion, the meet and greet was good. I'm gonna do it again. You should do it too, okay? All right, and if you like these videos, please don't forget to hit that likey and subscribe button, and make sure you watch the next video coming up over here. Thank you so much. Bye.